is written down for implementation, it has not fallen. In terms of the standard, in terms of what should be learned in school, it has not fallen. But the approach, execution, post-performance evaluation, we are not getting the desired result. And that is where we have to zero our discussion today. Now the word developing economy. The word developing economy has suddenly replaced what we used to call underdeveloped economy, or what is used to describe world nations. This word developing economy and economic development is like a transition, something that will lead us into what we aspire to be. And for instance, those of us from this extraction, we know that currently we are like a bursary nation. We are supported, we are helped. There are several things like immunization and all that. But we are created to be self-reliant. God has given us the opportunity to liberate ourselves by giving us the same opportunity to acquire knowledge, to acquire skills, and use these skills to develop our talents and to develop ourselves, to develop our society. So we should confront our innate qualities and use our innate qualities to develop our society and people around us. Now let us look at the national educational system and the policies in the land over time. In 1981, the national policy on education was based on a tripod of 6 years primary education, post-primary education that will give you 2 years, 5 years of secondary, and then 2 years either the higher school or teacher education, as it were. Then you have 3 to 6 years for tertiary education. That was exactly what we had in the post-independence structure. It was carried into the 1981. But again in 1985 came the 4-tier structure, the 6334 system. 6 years of free primary education, 3 years of junior secondary, 3 years of senior secondary, and a minimum of 4 years tertiary education. That experiment was to mainstream the vocational component of our learning process. Under the junior secondary school, we had the comprehensive of vocational, then the grammar component, and it was to expose our children, our young Nigerians, to the opportunities that are bound for us to express ourselves and use our talents to develop our society. But what happened? The 6334 system, where the vocational education isolated on one side, that was supposed to create the platform for us to industrialize our place. That sector was completely abandoned. That is vocational education. Now in 2006 came another concept, trying to restructure, to drive those that failed to embrace vocational education at the 6334 at the university level now in what is called entrepreneurship and skill acquisition. So the entrepreneurship was made the mainstay from 2006, and through that every university in the land was mandated through the National Universities Commission to introduce entrepreneurship as a course in the university system. And the entrepreneurship as introduced in our own way and the way we do things, many institutions have seen that, and it's another way of teaching business studies and the normal theorizing of ideas. But the real sense is entrepreneurship should be married with vocational education that exists also in the university. In vocational education, you have very many skills that are bound. You have woodwork, you have all sorts of trades that are there. And these trades, auto mechanics and all that, they are there in vocational education. And what do we see in the system? We just finished our admissions in various universities. It is a shame that students, candidates that are aspiring to get into the university, in a situation where we should be doing 60% sciences, 40% non-science, you are having close to 80% non-science and 20% sciences even in subscription for admission. And I have always asked this, and I continue to ask this question. Young people will be in the secondary school, whether cancelled or not, they will say they want to read business administration, but I'm not saying that there's nothing wrong, there's nothing beneficial about business administration. But I'm saying, if you want to study business administration, whose business are you going to manage on graduation? If you are not producing a pin, your father is not owning a factory, your village, you don't have a company that's viable, and then you say, give me business administration. And I will always ask, establish the business and then go to school to learn how to manage your business. That is the essence of reading a course like that. They want to study psychology, you want to study economics, you want to study finance and banking. These are the subscriptions we have in the land. And then you turn and you ask yourself, how many people are studying technical education, civil engineering, polymer and textile engineering, and all that? You will not find the candidates. And I said, this is not going to help us. Let us be diagnostic in our approach. Let us consider the needs of our society. Let us find those needs of our society and use that to drive the causes that will endure in the land. So for now, the emphasis from 2006 to present is for us to mainstream entrepreneurship, vocational education, skill acquisition, technical education, vocational education in all areas of our educational system. And how do we do that? Because I'm not coming to define our lab. The way forward. The way forward for us is for us to impress, even from our primary schools, even at elementary level, those things that will help our young minds to be focused in the production process. In focusing them that if you are going to be in school, you have a dream of a particular trade that you are going to pursue at the end of your training. If you want to read mass communication, you should align yourself with the practice of that particular course. There's no course in the university that you start dreaming about that you will not start the practice even from primary school. And that is the way to go. From primary, we deepen it at secondary school level before we start getting into tertiary education. Our greatest undoing today is that people will move from secondary school, get into the university, and on graduation, they'll come back and say, I have a certificate, and I'm looking for a job. And I will always ask, who asked you to go to the university? Who asked you to go to a polytechnic? With a secondary school certificate, you can feed yourself. In developed societies, people start acquiring higher knowledge because they need the higher knowledge to improve their skills. So let us get back to our roots. Let us identify those qualities that we have innate in all of us, in our communities in this country. We have talents that are untapped. At Nnamdi Azikiwe University, for instance, we have taken a step to map the 177 communities in Anambra State. We have established a center that is called Center for Community and Rural Development. We are diagnostically going to apply that in identifying the critical needs of the various communities and pigeonhole the needs of such communities by promoting those qualities that are very, very peculiar, that they themselves can process and use that as source of revenue and source of development of their environment. That is part of our community service. That is part of our own way of contributing to the society, and that is what we think will endure in course of time.